Boys and girls, this series of videos has been produced for you, the grade 6 Natural Sciences learners of Aspiranza Primary School, to teach you about further aspects of electricity. You will watch the videos at home at your own pace and reflect on the questions after each section. At the end of the series, you will be expected to do an assessment to determine the effectiveness of this teaching method. It is important for you to remember, firstly, you can watch these videos as often as you like. If you are unsure about a certain concept, make a note of it. You can then ask your teacher about it in class and discuss it with your classmates. Thirdly, if you have any interesting examples or ideas about a topic, also make a note of it so that you can share that with your classmates. And then lastly, remember, you will write an assessment to determine your understanding of the learning outcomes after you have completed all the topics that make up this unit. Well, good luck. Your schedule. The schedule will guide you as to the topics you will cover each day. You must watch the video for each day the day before you come to class. Watch it as many times as you want to make sure you are able to answer the questions at the end of the video. The topic for day 1 will be fossil fuels and energy. The topic for day 2 will be how electricity is produced. Day 3 will deal with the cost of producing and supplying electricity, whilst day 4 will deal with the cost of consuming electricity. On day 5, we will deal with the topic of illegal connections and aspects of safety regarding the use of electricity. And then on day 6 we will be dealing with renewable ways to generate electricity. Day 6 will deal with an overview as well as solar power, and on day 7 we will continue with renewable ways to generate electricity, where we will be dealing with wind and water. And on day 8, as we said earlier, we will have an assessment of how effective this teaching method was. You are now on day 1, where you will be watching videos and learning about how fossil fuels were formed and energy captured in the process. Fossil fuels are the remains of dead plants and animals that have stored energy from the sun from millions of years ago. Watch the next video and ensure that you are able to answer the questions that will follow afterwards.
Planet Earth, home to over 6.5 billion human beings. Over the last 100 years, our species' appetite for energy has increased staggeringly. Exciting new technologies, funky gadgets and amazing machines are just some of the things which add to the energy we demand every day. But where do we get this energy? Most of the energy found on our planet begins its journey at the sun. As the sun shines down on the Earth, some of this energy is captured by green plants and stored. When these plants are eaten, some of this energy is passed on, and if that animal is eaten, it's passed on again. This is a simple food chain, providing the energy our bodies need. However, getting hold of this energy so we can use it to power technologies and machines can be tricky. We don't usually use the energy stored inside plants and animals alive today, but we do use energy stored in ancient animals and plants from the past. To find this energy, we don't need to go back in time, we just need to dig deep into the upper layer of our planet, the crust. If we dig in the right spot, we can find these ancient remains, but they don't look like animals or plants anymore. They have transformed into coal, or gas, or oil. We call these fossil fuels, and we can burn them to make the energy we need. But hold on, let's rewind for a minute. There's a few mysteries to be solved here. How do these ancient animals and plants change to become solid coal, liquid oil, or even gas? Also, why are they found deep underground? Why not lying about on the surface? It certainly would make them much easier to find. Part of the answer to these questions is locked up in the time it takes for them to change. In fact, the true age of many of these animals and plants is older than the pyramids, older than the last ice age, and in some cases older than the dinosaurs. Let's look really closely and find out exactly what happens to make them change from a living thing millions of years ago to a fossil fuel today. The first thing to realize is that not all ancient animals and plants become fossil fuels. In fact, there are 4 different things that must happen to an ancient living thing in order for them to transform into a fossil fuel. We call these conditions, so let's have a look at them. Let's examine them one at a time and find out what they mean, beginning with this condition, the need for a saturated environment. But what does saturated mean? Imagine a sponge. Dip it in a sink, and all of its tiny holes fill up with water. When the sponge cannot hold any more, we say it's saturated. A perfect example of a saturated environment is a swamp. This time, let's have a look at the need for an anaerobic environment. But what does anaerobic mean? Anaerobic sounds like a complicated word, but it just means that there is no oxygen around. Now, lots of living things, including you and me, need oxygen to survive, so we live in places where there's lots of it. We call this an aerobic environment. However, some living things, like certain types of bacteria, like to live where there is no oxygen. This is called an anaerobic environment. A great example of an anaerobic environment is in a swamp. Up next, let's have a look at the need for high pressure. But what really is pressure? Pressure is a force pushing down on or against something. A good example of a place with really high pressure is deep underground, where there's lots of rock pressing down. The more rock, the more weight, and so the more pressure. And finally, the need for high temperature. So, what exactly is temperature? Temperature is the measure of how hot or cold a place is. Now, we all know that the sun can make places hot on the Earth, but it's also very hot underground beneath the Earth's surface. This is because the Earth produces its own heat. An example of a really hot place is in deep mines. Okay, let's recap. This means for our ancient living things to turn into fossil fuels, they need a saturated environment, anaerobic conditions, lots of pressure, and high temperatures. Let's watch the whole story now, from an ancient plant to a lump of coal. Tropical areas provide the ideal conditions for plant growth. Millions of years before the dinosaurs walked the earth, the land was covered in early types of plants, mainly ferns. In tropical areas, these ferns were huge, gigantic tree ferns. At this time in the Earth's history, lots of changes were occurring across the planet. These changes caused sea levels to rise and flood the land, saturating the environment. As the water levels rose, small particles of soil and sediments were washed in. These gradually began to settle out to form a layer on the bottom. These changes transformed the area into a swamp, and over time it became more and more anaerobic. Without oxygen, the plants and trees died, toppled over in layers, and were then covered with water. Beneath the surface, in these anaerobic conditions, the plants, however, did not fully rot away, as oxygen is needed for things to properly decay. Gradually, layers of this plant material built up, and then sediments continued to wash in, forming another layer on top, a bit like a sandwich. When the water levels eventually dropped, these sandwich layers left behind were rich in nutrients, ideal conditions for new plants to grow. These plants then grew big over many years, and then the whole process began again. In fact, over millions of years, this process repeated over and over, like a cycle. So, in the formation of coal, ancient forests became flooded, and the rising water brought lots of sediments. These swampy conditions then became anaerobic and caused the trees in the forest to die. Layers of dead trees began to build up, and they were covered by sediments washed in with the rising water. In these anaerobic conditions, plants and trees could not fully rot. When water levels dropped again, layers of compacted dead plants, buried under a layer of sediment, were left behind, creating the perfect environment for new plants to grow. This process repeated over millions of years, and each time creating more sandwich-like layers of plants and sediments. As more and more layers piled up, both the temperature and pressure increased, pushing, squeezing, and heating the plant material to form coal. This process created the layers of coal that we see today when we dig underground in parts of Scotland.
So why are fossil fuels such a powerful but ultimately problematic source of energy? Conditions on the waterways of today's Louisiana help us understand how fossil fuels are made and why they're ultimately unsustainable. Oil, coal, and natural gas are made from things, mostly plants, that lived and died long ago. It's taken hundreds of millions of years for nature to create enough of the special conditions that save the carbon and energy in plants to form the fossil fuels that we use. Here's how it works. Plants, like these tiny diatoms encased in silica shells, grow in the upper layers of lakes and oceans, using the sun's energy to turn carbon dioxide and water into more plants. When they die, if they're buried where there's little oxygen to break them down, their chemical bonds retain the energy that began as sunlight. If enough carbon-rich matter is buried deeply enough, for long enough, the Earth's heat and pressure turn it into fossil fuel, concentrating the energy that once fed the growing plants. Vary what goes into Earth's pressure cooker and the temperature, and you end up with the different kinds of fossil fuel.
Woody plants make coal. Slimy plants, algae, will give you oil, and both of them give rise to natural gas. The fossil fuels formed over a few 100 million years, and we're burning them over a few 100 years. And if we keep doing that, sooner or later they must run out. But there's a bigger problem with fossil fuels. As we've seen, they're made of carbon primarily. When you burn them, you add oxygen, and that makes CO2 that goes in the air. We're reversing the process by which they formed. And if we keep doing this, it must change the composition of Earth's atmosphere.
Now that you have watched the video, answer the following questions. 1. What are the 3 fossil fuels, and say in what state of matter each exists? 2. How were fossil fuels formed? 3. When were fossil fuels formed? 4. Why do we say that all our energy originally comes from the sun? 5. What is sediment? 6. What are the main factors that turn organic remains into fossil fuels? And 7. What is a non-renewable energy resource? You are now on day 2, where you will learn how electricity is produced. Day 2. How electricity is produced. In South Africa, most of our mains electricity is produced by coal-burning power stations. These power stations change the energy that is stored in coal into electrical energy. Now watch the next video and ensure that you are able to answer the questions that will follow afterwards.
The huge building you see behind me is one of Ontario Power Generation's fossil fuel generating stations. This one uses coal. Other fossil fuel generating stations use oil and natural gas to make electricity. In essence, it's a factory that converts the energy from burning coal into a flow of electrons, or what is commonly called electricity, the electricity that powers the province. Coal is shipped to the station by freighter or train, where it's then transferred to the coal yard. There, large machines called tractor scrapers arrange the coal into storage piles. A series of conveyors transports the coal into the plant, where it passes through enormous pulverizers that grind the coal into a fine powder prior to burning. The pulverized coal is fed into a large industrial furnace that is surrounded by boiler tubes filled with water. The intense heat from the burning coal heats the water in the boiler tubes and turns it into steam. The steam is transferred under pressure at high speed through large pipes to turbines like these. It's this pressure and flow that pushes the blades of the turbine, causing it to spin. The turbine is connected to a generator that contains a rotor. Large electromagnets are attached to the rotor that is located within coils of copper wire called the stator. As the generator rotor spins, a flow of electrons is created in the stator. This produces electricity that can be stepped up in voltage through the station transformers and sent from the station across transmission lines. The steam from the turbine is condensed back to water using cooling water from the lake and pumped back to the boiler where it is reheated to continue the process.
This is fairly common. You go into a room and turn on the light, plop down in your comfy chair and switch on the TV, maybe heat up a little something in the microwave, and of course, grab the laptop to check on friends. But those items all use electricity. So where does electricity come from anyway? Well, way back when there were dinosaurs and they all died off and were compressed into the earth, they became oil, natural gas, and coal. We call those fossil fuels. Just a bit later in time, humans built power plants to burn those fossil fuels. That burning creates enough steam to rotate turbines that create the electricity that enters your house so that you can use your electronic gadgets right there at home. But what are the drawbacks? First, fossil fuels are non-renewable. We have a limited supply, so they'll be gone soon. Second, burning oil and coal produces carbon dioxide, the #1 contributor to global warming. And third, electricity just costs money. Ask the person at your house who pays the bills. It's not surprising that the world is using more and more electricity. That's where you come in. Today, consider all the ways you can conserve energy.
Created using Powtoon.
We plug it in, we turn it on, and it works. But the electricity we're using was produced at that very moment at a power plant miles and miles away. Let's take a look at the complex system of wires and transformers required to get electricity from the power plant to your house instantly. Much like there are different types of roads depending on the distance you're going to travel, there are different types of lines depending on how far the electricity has to travel. As it leaves the power plant, the electricity gets on the interstate highway of electric lines. These transmission lines are designed to carry a great amount of electricity, hundreds of thousands of volts, the many miles from the power plant to your home. Think of voltage like the speed of your car. Transmission lines carry high voltage electricity long distances, just like interstate highways are used by fast-moving cars to go long distances. The higher the voltage, the farther the electricity can travel. As the electricity nears the area where it will be used, it is transferred to smaller lines. And just like cars go through an interchange to get off the interstate highway and onto smaller highways, the electricity goes through a substation where the voltage is reduced so that it can travel on smaller lines. At these lower voltages, the electricity is distributed to where it will be used. Keep in mind that the poles that distribute the electricity are often also used by phone and cable TV companies to distribute their signals. The electricity is distributed at a voltage that is still too high for homes to use, so again there's a substation that decreases the voltage. The electricity can now travel on the lines that run through your neighborhood. But just as the speed limit on your street is too fast to pull into your garage, the voltage must again be reduced before you can use it safely in your home. The final voltage reduction takes place on a pole-mounted transformer, or in the case of underground service, a pad-mounted transformer. The electricity is now at a voltage that can be safely used in your home. The lines that connect directly to your house are called a service drop. An overhead service is generally a twisted set of 3 wires. Usually the service drop is connected to the home with a knob. The knob supports the weight of the wires, and the electrical connection is made at the weatherhead. The weatherhead is designed to prevent rain from getting down into the wires, leading to the meter base. The meter base is the box that the electric meter is plugged into. The electricity travels through the meter, which records the amount being used, and into your home, where it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We know that electricity has become an absolute necessity to go about our daily lives. And we're constantly working to ensure that the entire system of lines and poles and substations and transformers is ready to supply the electricity you need all the time.
Now that you've watched the video, answer the following questions. 1. Why do power stations need to have a large storage of coal? 2. Why do you think the coal is pulverized into a fine powder? 3. What happens inside the boiler of a power station? 4. Why is water a good resource to use in generating electricity in a power station? 5. What is the steam used for? 6. What part of the power station actually makes electricity? 7. Describe the complete pathway of how energy from the sun reaches your TV set. You are now on day 3, where you will be watching videos and learning about the cost of producing and supplying electricity. Day 3. Cost of producing and supplying electricity. Infrastructure means the structures and other things that ensure something works properly. Generating and distributing electricity is very costly because of the infrastructure that is required. Now watch the next video and ensure that you are able to answer the questions that will follow afterward.
My name is Matthew McGrath. I'm a distribution engineer here at Hydro Ottawa, working in the Assets and Planning Group. My job is to plan the electrical distribution system to meet customer demands. When we brew our morning coffee or turn on our computers in the morning, we expect electricity to work. Most of the time it does, and we only stop to think about the power when it's not there. In fact, there's a lot going on behind the scenes to make sure that power is available at your house or business. We expect the power to be there at the flick of a switch or when we plug something in, and that puts a lot of pressure on the city's electrical distribution system. The entire province's electrical system is aging, and that creates a lot of barriers to deliver the best possible service to our customers. A large part of Hydro Ottawa's distribution system was built and renewed in the 60s and 70s. Most of that equipment now is at the end of its lifespan. Just like you might replace the roof of your house, we must replace our poles, cables, transformers to keep up with growing demand and deal with the natural wear and tear. That's where my group comes in. To keep the city's power safe and reliable, we decide how to invest in Hydro Ottawa's aging infrastructure and how to supply all the new buildings going up across town. Hydro Ottawa uses 90 substations that supply electricity to over 315,000 businesses and residential customers. As we update the grid, we're adding new technologies to help us prevent outages and speed up restoration when the lights do go out. In the past 3 years, we've made capital investments of over $250 million in the electrical distribution system. These investments included 300 kilometers of aging power lines, 2,100 rotten poles, and 1,800 transformers. We've also built new substations and improved existing ones in order to maintain a more reliable service to our customers. As our city continues to grow, so does the need for more electricity. The electricity demand is expected to increase roughly 50% in the next 20 years. Hydro Ottawa's equipment must keep pace. We are committed to delivering reliable power to our customers, whether that's building a whole new substation or replacing cables or poles in your neighborhood. One thing's for sure, investing in infrastructure today creates a more reliable, energy-efficient system that everybody in Ottawa can enjoy.
It was a huge national embarrassment. The lights went out for 34 minutes during the Super Bowl, the US's biggest sporting showpiece, watched by 108 million people. What exactly happened is still unclear, but it's opened the debate about the state of the country's electricity infrastructure. Across the country, people have been hit by blackouts for long periods. 7 months ago, this area was hit with a storm that left tens of thousands of people without power for up to 10 days. And that came after a winter storm which hit the same area and many of the same people. Now, experts are predicting without improvements across America, that's going to happen more often and in a lot more places.
The issue is, what people tell me, is really more about avoiding getting to the point where we've harvested all of this value out of infrastructure that we built 40 years ago and not planted anything new. And we're kind of starting to get to the point where we have to start planting or we're going to run out of time.
In the US, there were 149 significant power outages between 2000 and 2004. Over the next 4 years, there were more than double that number. Upgrading the national electricity supply is expensive. It could take more than $100 billion, but frequent power outages could cost a lot more.
We are short about $107 billion in investment by 2020 to keep our electrical transmission system in a good condition. Or, to look at it a different way, for just $11 billion a year, we can prevent fewer blackouts, which can result in savings of $126 billion to businesses.
In Chattanooga, Tennessee, an electricity grid linked to computer helps the city avoid blackouts. But introducing a similar grid across the country could cost about $500 billion. Many companies hit by bad weather are focused on repairing rather than replacing damaged power lines. Experts say that slows the pace of improvement and could mean more people being left in the dark. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Now that you have watched the video, answer the following questions. 1. Name 6 examples of types of infrastructure required for producing electricity. 2. What factors contribute to the cost of producing electricity? 3. Why are so many countries all over the world experiencing electricity blackouts like we have with Eskom? You are now on day 4, where you will be watching videos and learning about the cost of consuming electricity. Day 4, cost of consuming electricity. People pay for electricity in units. These units are called kilowatt hours, abbreviated kWh. Different appliances use different numbers of units of electricity. If we know how many units our appliances use, we can control our overall power consumption and save money. Now watch the next videos and ensure that you are able to answer the questions that will follow afterwards.
When you buy a light bulb or a microwave, it tells you how many watts it is. But when you get your electricity bill, it measures power in something called kilowatt hours. What is that? Well, if you have a 1,000-watt microwave, that means for every second it is on, it is drawing 1,000 watts of power. If you ran your microwave for an hour, you used 1,000 watts for an hour, or a kilowatt hour. The fewer watts something uses, the longer it takes to use up a whole kilowatt hour. For example, a compact fluorescent light bulb would take 40 hours to use an entire kilowatt hour, but an average vacuum cleaner uses a kilowatt hour of electricity in about an hour and a half. This might get you thinking about how much electricity those appliances of yours are consuming. Just think, a 1980s era refrigerator uses about 1,400 kilowatt hours a year. A modern energy-efficient fridge uses about 350 kilowatt hours a year. That's 4 times more efficient. Ontario is a big province. A typical house uses about 9,600 kilowatt hours a year. That means we use 45 billion kilowatt hours. So if everyone used just a little bit less, we'd save a whole lot. To learn more about how you can save energy, save money, and how Ontario is building clean energy, visit ontario.ca/empowerme. Tell us what you think. Follow us on Twitter.
Now that you've watched the video, answer the following questions. 1. What is the unit of measurement for electricity? 2. What is a kilowatt hour? 3. Which appliances in your home use the most electricity? 4. What is an energy efficient appliance? 5. Give an example of an energy efficient appliance in a home. You are now on day 5, where you will be watching videos and learning about illegal connections and safety associated with the usage of electricity in our homes. Day 5. Illegal connections and ways of using electricity safely. Some people make illegal connections to existing power lines. They cut through the insulation in a power line and attach other cables to this line. They can then direct some electricity to their home or workplace. This is a very dangerous practice. But we also face dangers in our use of electricity in our homes and environment. Now watch the next videos and ensure that you are able to answer the questions that will follow afterwards.
There's a solemn mood in the Magaye home. A day ago, they buried 2 of their family. Tamsang Kazungu and Zenzele Magaye were electrocuted while reinstalling an illegal power connection. A friend, Mfanafuti Langa, was also killed.
The reason why they went to illegally connect electricity is because we need electricity. We'd also like to have electricity in our home like others do, so we can stop using candles.
The victims lived in the Staram informal settlement, where dangerous electricity connections are hidden in the bushes. Authorities have recorded 9 deaths here in the past year alone. A day after the latest incident, the community's anger was clear as they trashed the CBD. Many informal settlements across Durban have already benefited from the city's temporary electrification program while they await proper houses. The mayor's office says it's noted the concerns of residents here, but it's urging them to remain patient for just a little longer.
There is now a housing project of more than 1,000 that has been approved for that particular area. Then it means in the next 12 months or so, there will be bricks and mortar on the ground. There will be all the required infrastructure, including water, proper electricity in their households.
The city is planning to consult with the community soon. Desan Tathia, Durban.
Stone's throw away from the Mbombela Stadium, a mushrooming informal settlement. Many people here are using illegally connected electricity. On arrival in the area, we found men equipped with tools of trade working on electrifying more houses, but they wouldn't want to appear on camera.
The legal connection, we do this thing because we want some electric. We want to help ourselves and even our children, because to live without the electric those days is not right for it.
Electricity cables running along the streets is an all too familiar scene here, posing a danger to locals, especially children. Electricity theft is now affecting those who pay for power. At least 3 power transformers have exploded in the past few weeks.
It's affecting us because the connection is not good. And now we lost our TV, radios, and now we're having the low electricity.
Power utility Eskom is losing billions of rand through electricity theft. Eskom says they will comment about the Matafen issue at a later stage. Moil Maslela, SABC News, in Mbombela, Mpumalanga.
And on
Here's another tips on proper use of electrical appliances. 1. Read the manual before using the appliances. 2. Electrical wires and plugs must be checked for damages. 3. Use the nearest wall-mounted socket. Avoid over the extending wire. 4. Grip the plug and never pull the wire when unplugging. 5. Do not use electrical appliances simultaneously to avoid overloading. 6. Unplug appliances when not in use. 7. Electrical installation, connections and repairs must be done by qualified electricians. Remember, safety first. See you next time.
Stay safe together. Hey there. Psst. No, down here. Shocked? Don't be. I'm just the outlet you need to turn on the lights, watch TV, charge your phone, even play games on the computer. They all run through me, with electricity. But I'm here to tell you that electricity can run through a lot of other things too, because it's always trying to get to the ground as fast as possible. So it'll travel through conductors like metal, water, wood. Electricity can even travel through you too. That's why you've got to play it safe and sound when electricity's around. So come on, come in.
In there?
Sure. Let's explore my top 5 that can keep you alive. Let's see. Why don't we start with...
How about number 1?
Number 1? That's a good place to begin. It's simple. Never, ever, ever stick metal objects into an outlet or anything running on electricity, like a computer, a game, or especially an old kitchen appliance, like a toaster.
Yeah, I like to eat toast, but I don't want to be toast.
Okay, number 2. Don't put too many plugs into one outlet. There's a reason why each outlet only has 2 plug-ins. Using any more than 2 could spit sparks and start a fire.
So, if I need to plug in more, I'll always use a power strip.
3. Water mixes with a lot of things, but water and electricity, they don't mix.
They never have. They never will.
So to avoid a really shocking accident, that means no hair dryers, no phone or game chargers, nothing plugged in near a tub or sink full of water. Play it so safe that you never even touch an electric switch when you're wet.
And hey, that means no radios near the pool either.
Number 4 is so easy you won't even have to look it up. Just look up.
Oh, you mean stay away from power lines.
Especially during thunderstorms. Strong storms and wind can damage power lines, and if you see that happen, wow, get back.
And I'll get to a phone and call OG&E as fast as I can.
The same goes for power lines damaged in a car accident.
That means steer clear.
And if you're in a car and power lines are touching it, don't get out. You're actually safe in the car. But if you do need to get out, jump as far as you can without touching the car and the ground at the same time. Just remember, sagging power lines or lines knocked to the ground are dangerous, even if they're not sparking, dancing, or making a crackling sound.
But good power lines can be a danger too. So remember, don't climb power line poles or trees near a power line. Because if one tiny little leaf touches the power line...
Number 5, it says to stay away from transformers and substations.
You know, transformers. They aren't robots. They're those little green boxes that you see around your neighborhood. And they carry enough power to light up your neighborhood. And they could light you up too. So if you see one that's unlocked, don't touch it. Tell your mom and dad to call OG&E. And same goes for those big substations. They're so powerful, they gotta have a big fence around them to keep people out. In fact, best to stay away from anything with a sign like this on it. So that's the 5 that'll keep you alive. Never put metal objects into outlets or appliances. Don't plug too much stuff into one outlet. Never mix water and electricity. Stay away from power lines. And always stay away from transformers and substations. We've got more facts and fun at OGE.com. So come hang out at Pluggy's Outlet. You'll even find out how to make your home greener and about alternate energy sources that'll power your world into 2020 and beyond. So, whether you're outside, inside,
or upside down, let's handle electricity with care.
and
Let's all stay safe together.
Starting recording. Illegal connections and ways of using electricity safely. Now that you've watched the video, answer the following questions. Number 1. What is an illegal electrical connection? 2. What are the dangers associated with illegal connections? 3. Why do people make illegal connections? 4. What do you think that communities can do about illegal connections? 5. What do you think that your municipality should do about illegal connections? 6. What should the government do about illegal connections? And then lastly, coming to safety, list as many as you can ways in which you can use electricity safely in your home and environment. You are now on day 6, where you will be exploring renewable ways to generate electricity, and today we will be giving you firstly an overview, and thereafter we will look at solar energy.
Kids Educational Games.
Hi, and thanks for joining me for this course, The Responsible Use of Energy. I'm your host, Phil A. Ment, and I need your help. The world needs energy ambassadors to help save the planet's energy. From outer space, the planet Earth looks like a big blue marble. But this marble is our home. And just like most homes around the world, it takes a lot of energy to run. So we have to take care of it and not waste its energy. Here is what you will learn in this course. Exploring Energy, where you will explore the different sources of energy. Energy is not unlimited, where you will find out the difference between renewable and non-renewable energy sources. And finally, using energy responsibly to make a difference, where you can find ways to conserve energy right at home and make a difference. No matter what kind of energy you use in your home, it's a good idea to know about energy and its responsible use, so you can do your part in saving it. Solar power means energy from the sun. How powerful is it? The Earth receives more energy from the sun in just 1 hour than the world uses in a whole year. Solar energy is used to generate electricity using solar panels. Unfortunately, things like solar panels require solar cells, which need to be created from already existing materials like silicon, and those are not unlimited. Because of this, solar energy usage isn't as high as it could be. The main source of energy around the world is oil. Most electricity, fuel, and everyday things like plastic come from this source. Oil comes from far underground. It is brought to the surface by pumps and pipes. The best known use for oil is gasoline for cars. This is a fossil fuel, meaning it is a non-renewable source of energy. Coal is one of the major sources of energy in the world. It is usually mined from hillsides and mountains. Coal is a rock that is formed by millions of years of pressure on decaying organic material like plants and animals. That is why this rock is able to be burned, releasing its energy. It's also why we call coal a fossil fuel. Coal is a non-renewable resource. Natural gas is found in most of the world. The only place it's not found is in North Africa and Greenland. It often is located around coal or oil deposits in the earth. The word natural means that it is a gas formed by natural chemical processes in the earth. It is used for heating, cooking, and generating electricity. Since it is formed by many of the same processes that create coal and oil, it is non-renewable. Surprised to see wood on our list of energy sources? Don't be. Wood is needed to make fire, the earliest known energy source in human history. Wood is heavily used to supply the energy for cooking and heating. It has also been used to power steam technology in combination with water. Wood is a renewable resource because trees can be replaced. But we have to be careful how much we use wood products because trees take years to grow. Wind power is a new source of energy that's as old as the earth. It's very strong. Try flying a kite on a windy day. Most wind power is converted to electricity by using giant machines called wind turbines. The ability to use this kind of energy for electricity production has only been developed recently. Because wind is a natural resource that never runs out, it is called a renewable resource. The correct term for water power is hydropower. Hydro means water. Water power is one of the oldest known sources of energy in human history. For example, did you know that water mills were used in ancient China? Today, it is most often used to create electricity by using dams. And of course, it's a major source of energy and life for humans as drinking water. Because water is so plentiful and is replenished every time it rains, it is considered a renewable resource. Nuclear energy uses the power of the atom to create something very simple: steam power. When atoms are split, this generates an incredible amount of power that is used to superheat water, converting it into steam, which is then used to create electricity. However, it also generates waste that can be dangerous to human health and the environment. It takes a long time, sometimes thousands of years, for nuclear waste to become safe. It is a non-renewable source of energy. The term geo means earth, and thermal means heat. So the word geothermal literally means heat from the earth. Even though this type of energy is right under our feet, it is just now being tapped as a usable energy source. However, while this type of renewable energy is very efficient and doesn't hurt the environment, it's limited by its location. Geothermal sources occur in areas of the world that have volcanoes. So areas that aren't anywhere near these places can't use geothermal energy. Wow, that really is a lot of energy. However, that energy can get used up pretty quickly too. That's why we need to be responsible when we use it.
Hi, I'm Lee Patrick Sullivan with Energy Now, and today I'd like to talk to you about the power of the sun. Solar power is the most abundant, most renewable resource we have. If we could collect 1/100th of 1% of the sun's energy reaching the Earth, it would be more energy than all humans use today. Just outside Yuma, Arizona is the sunniest place in the world. 90% of the year the skies are clear. And these southwest deserts have enough suitable land to supply 80% of the entire planet's current use. The sun has produced energy for billions of years and naturally energizes all of the plants on the planet. These plants give energy to animals and power the human body. This is done by a process called photosynthesis. For decades now, scientists have unlocked the secrets of how a plant creates energy through photosynthesis and can duplicate that process using modern technology and silicone. This process of creating electricity from the sun can power our homes and cities. There are two ways of capturing the power of the sun. First is photovoltaic devices, more commonly known as solar cells. They change sunlight directly into electricity. These individual cells are joined together to make solar panels. These can be placed on rooftops, in calculators, and even on large-scale fields covering many acres to power cities. Solar energy systems produce no air pollutants or carbon dioxide. And because they can be placed on the top of existing buildings, they do not require extra land for power plants. Another way to capture the sun's energy is by capturing its heat. Solar thermal electric power plants generate electricity by concentrating solar energy to boil water, which then produces steam. This steam turns a turbine, which moves a generator to produce electricity. Solar thermal electric plants consist of fields of mirrors to reflect the concentrated sunlight onto a receiver. The receiver then collects this solar energy and converts it to heat. The production of energy from solar thermal plants work essentially the same as fossil fuel power plants. But instead of producing steam from burning fossil fuels, the steam is made by the sun. The only downside to this source of technology is that the power only exists as long as the sun is up. To help solve this problem, other forms of solar technology have been explored. Scientists are currently working on methods to store this energy for cloudy days and nighttime. One way to conquer this problem is building new power plants that combine a multitude of renewable energy sources. Using solar power and wind power and biogas could do this. When one method is not creating electricity, the other could take over. Other methods, such as storing excess power in batteries, could also be a possible future for solar technology.
Day 6. Renewable ways to generate electricity. Now that you've watched the video, answer the following questions. 1. Why do you think that natural phenomena such as sunlight and wind can be considered as renewable? 2. Which of the two resources do you consider as the best option for South Africa? Give a reason for your answer. 3. Why is it that not more people are using solar energy? 4. What is the advantage of using solar energy in terms of space? 5. Name 2 disadvantages of using solar power. 6. Can electrical energy be stored? Motivate your answer. You are now on day 7, where you will be watching videos and learning about renewable ways to generate electricity and exploring water and wind.
Hi, I'm Lee Patrick Sullivan with Energy Now, and today I would like to talk to you about the power of the wind. People have been using wind as a form of energy for thousands of years to power sailboats and windmills. Without the power of wind, our ancestors would have struggled to travel across oceans, trade with other nations, and explore the wonders of the world. Wind is air in motion. It's caused by uneven temperatures on the Earth's surface when heated by the sun. Because the air over the land heats up more quickly than the air over the water, the warm air rises and the heavier, cooler air rushes in to take its place, creating wind. While this process is not as predictable as the rising and setting of the sun, it's just as renewable. In 2010, wind power generated about 2% of total U.S. electricity. Wind turbines harness the kinetic energy of moving air. The air blows over the blades, creating lift just like the wings of an airplane. This causes the blades to move, and through a drive shaft, this turns a generator that creates electricity. Similar to solar arrays, wind farms connect individual wind turbines together to generate electricity on a large scale. These wind farms can be built on both land and water. Building wind farms off the coastline of the United States is a new idea for capturing more of the wind's energy. Offshore areas have plenty of space, the wind is reliable, and wind farms built off the coastline would be much closer to major cities than those that already exist on land. The first offshore wind farm to win a permit from the federal government is scheduled to be built off the shore of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Current plans call for 130 wind turbines, or enough to power hundreds of thousands of homes.
Renewable Energy 101. Water covers 71% of the Earth's surface and is vital to our daily lives. It can also be a clean, renewable, reliable source of electricity. Hydroelectric energy comes from capturing the force of moving water that's in our Earth's rivers and oceans. We do this by using the movement of the water to spin hydraulic turbines. That generates kinetic energy, which is converted to electricity through a generator, and then sent to the power grid. Most hydropower is generated from dams built on rivers and streams, often where there's a big drop in elevation, so gravity can help us out. Dams block the water's natural flow and force it through a large pipe with the turbine and generator before releasing it back into the stream on the other side of the dam. Today, we know that dams, most of which were built before the 1960s here in the US, can disrupt river ecosystems. There haven't been many new hydro plants built in the US in a few decades, but some existing dams are beginning to be tapped for their electricity generating potential, and existing hydro facilities are being upgraded to be less harmful to plants, fish, and wildlife. This helps us get the electricity we need while protecting the natural environment around us. Now that's a win-win.
Day 7. Renewable ways to generate electricity. Now that you've watched the video, answer the following questions. 1. Name one negative of wind turbines. 2. What is the biggest requirement for generating hydroelectricity? 3. Is it viable to generate hydroelectricity in a province like the Eastern Cape? 4. In what type of locations would wind turbines be most practical? 5. How did people in the olden days use wind power?
You have reached the end of this unit. Are you ready for your assessment? You can review any of the video content if you are still uncertain about your understanding of the different concepts in this unit. Good luck.